Hi, my name is Haley McLaren, for those of you who don't know me. And today I'm going to be discussing the Eightfold Noble Path. So, the Eightfold Noble Path is, in other words, known as a formula for removing desire. Um, The path itself does involve 8 different criteria, but it's actually divided into 3 different categories. And those 3 different categories are morality, meditation, and what is known as insight. Um, all 3 categories encompass the path of achieving those 8 goals, like I said, those 8 goals being right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, right view, and right thought. The Eightfold Noble Path is considered to um, be a goal directed guide, with the goal being nirvana. This path is heavily used in the Theravada tradition. And when going over the Eightfold Noble Path, it's super highly encouraged to not just view the things or the themes of the path, but to actually strive to the best of your ability to achieve each one of those precepts that the Eightfold Noble Path lays out. So I just wanted to kind of compare the Eightfold Path in comparison to a lot of other religions, in the traditional sense. So there's 2 main aspects that make the Eightfold Path different than other forms of religion, mainly Christianity. There's a lack of a supreme being that is viewed as a controller of what goes on and the happenings, or that the followers depend upon in order to achieve enlightenment or salvation. The view of the Eightfold Noble Path is, if you achieve these things that the path lays out and strive for them and continue to practice them, then you will be able to achieve enlightenment. You don't have to rely on some supreme being in order to achieve that. And then there's also the lack of a belief in an eternal soul. So there is no afterlife. There is no place in the sky. We don't have a soul within us. We just have this body, and that's it. But both of those aspects are really common in most other traditional religions, and those are actually referenced in the Eightfold Path as an outlook that comes from our desire-driven mind or our ego in the human experience. So those are just further things that our mind likes to attach itself to for security. So the first category that we're going to go over is morality. And right speech is the first aspect given in the category of morality on the Eightfold Noble Path. Right speech is considered to be, avoiding dishonesty, so not lying, avoiding the use of rude language, so that probably involves, no cursing either, avoiding gossip and creating conflict, and only speaking about things that are considered necessary. And according to the Eightfold Noble Path, the things that you speak about that are necessary should be things that are aimed towards achieving salvation or enlightenment, or anything that serve those purposes of expressing an idea. The next aspect underneath morality is right action, and that includes not killing or causing harm to any living being, not stealing, not ingesting intoxicants, and not performing sexual misconduct, which in most cases, underneath this path, monks and nuns who practice this tradition and follow this path are celibate. But as far as not causing harm to living beings, so a lot of people choose vegetarianism, and definitely not killing That's a big one as well. The third and last aspect that is underneath morality is right livelihood. And practicing right livelihood means living off of donations and requests, but not always saying yes. So, this part of the morality is a really good stepping stone into the direction of living from detachment, because while the people and the followers of this path are to accept donations and to appreciate them, at the same time, it's a really good practice and required to not take anything that's more than necessary. Um, so this is a really, like I said, this is a really good practice of desire cessation, not taking more than what's needed, accepting donations from the community, and things like that. So the next aspect that we're going to look at is the category of meditation, which is one of my personal favorites. So the first aspect that falls under meditation that it helps with is right effort. So right effort includes starting to practice protection against sensual impressions or thoughts that don't need attention. And so basically how I take that is, it's a good start to whenever you're first starting to meditate. A lot of people start out with focusing on their breath, the way that their body is positioned, and those normal day-to-day thoughts that we have that pop into our head are our mind's way of kind of trying to arouse something out of us. And the goal of right effort is to be able to watch those thoughts and not necessarily jump on the train with them and carry them off, and be able to dismiss them and be aware that they're there, but without actually getting attached to them. And later it becomes to where you recognize the thoughts that don't need any attention at all. Meditation is definitely seen as the next step towards deepening understanding on the Eightfold Path. Because especially with using different things to concentrate on, and moving even forward then to a deeper level rather than just focusing on your breath. The next is right mindfulness, which is essentially, you can see the picture over there, mindfulness, striving to stay focused on the present. Practicing and achieving right mindfulness means being completely conscious and aware of what you're doing at all times. So whether or not I am sitting on the cushion and I'm meditating, whenever I'm going and getting my morning coffee, or whenever I'm eating, or even whenever I'm trying to go to sleep, just being consciously aware of what I'm doing and what I'm thinking at all times. And being completely aware of my surroundings and not being absent-minded. So, for me, on a regular basis, I'm walking out the door and I always forget my keys. So I'm definitely not there yet in practicing right mindfulness. The last aspect to be attained through meditation is right concentration, which we kind of already went over, or it seems like the different categories all kind of tie in together, which they do, which is why they're umbrellaed under this one category. But right concentration is a state of strong concentration that one develops through meditation to enhance being present. Also, an aspect of meditation of being able to meditate on qualities of a certain point of focus and training the mind to remain in that state. So a lot of the times also to enhance this, focuses of concentration will be, traits of a Buddha, to meditate on and to use that as a central focus of concentration and to kind of take on those qualities that the Buddha possesses and possess it ourselves and to strive towards that. And also continuously growing and training the mind to remain in that state so that I'm not having those moments of forgetting my keys whenever I'm about to walk out the door, whenever I'm talking to someone and I'm aware of my breath or my hand gestures like I'm doing now, or being able to hear and be aware of all of my surroundings, regardless of what my point of concentration is. Usually the focus of concentration is to be able to concentrate on one thing while also being present in all areas. And then the last three of the categories is insight. Other words, it's also referred to as wisdom. And the first aspect of this is right view. So right view is understanding that nirvana is possible and can be achieved. And right view is also about seeing the world as it really is. So we're deepening our lessons through meditation, and then we're putting it into practice of once you are able to be in that fully conscious space, then the belief is that all of a sudden we start to see the truth of nature as it really is and live in that space. The final aspect of underneath insight is right thought. And right thought is to achieve and put into practice what is discovered through right view and seeing how perceptions can delude the truth and perpetuate suffering. So like I said, continuing to take that right view, and whenever I look out into the world, seeing how also through meditation tying into insight of how my perceptions of things or how my mind will create different scenarios in order for me to not fully see things the way that they actually are. So I wanted to show how the Eightfold Noble Path isn't just super important in the Theravada tradition, and how it's actually expanding its way out towards the West. And that's one aspect of that is Refuge Recovery, which is a recovery program for addicts and alcoholics who actually use the Eightfold Noble Path as a way to absolve the desire to drink and to do drugs. And from alcoholism and addiction. The difference is that the path doesn't have to be followed in order. So they kind of use it as a tool base to, as long as you're focusing on any of these areas and trying to achieve those and eventually get to all 8, then you'll alleviate your suffering from addiction and alcoholism. Many people have found refuge recovery helpful and have stayed sober as a result, using the practice of the path and meditation to relieve the addictive desire. So one thing that I did want to share is that, I personally am a recovered alcoholic and drug addict, and I've been sober for almost 5 years. And I've gone to refuge recovery meetings. I've seen the way that they fold out the path. Meditation is a huge part of the 12 steps. And it's been extremely helpful to be able to watch my own thoughts and to have right concentration and to be able to recognize that I am not my thoughts, and having those moments of seeing the reality of the truth and the way that the world really is. And that just enhances my spiritual aspect of my program and keeps that connection there in order for me to stay sober. And so the Eightfold Noble Path is the same way with refuge recovery, is giving addicts and alcoholics that basis for them to have some spiritual outlet and to be relieved from desire and the obsession to do alcohol, to drink alcohol and to do drugs. So it's extremely powerful, and I think it's one of the really fascinating things that Buddhism has given to the Westward community. Last but not least, so refuge recovery is not the only thing that has come out of the benefits of using the Eightfold Path. Many therapists are now using the principles and methods outlined in the Eightfold Noble Path to further assist patients. And it's also been found that when practitioners follow the guidelines themselves, they become more ethical, and they're able to take on a position of treating each patient more effectively due to focusing on their own needs. And meditation has increasingly become a practice used by the mental health community in treating different things like depression, anxiety. Anxiety is a huge one. So it's extremely powerful, and I'm super grateful and excited that this path has made its way towards the Westward community. And that is my presentation. Here are my references and my contact info.